Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Packers Unscripted from Packers.com. I am Mike Spofford, joined by the one and only Wes Hodkiewicz. We're coming to you here from our studios at Lambeau Field to preview Sunday's game here at Lambeau. It will be the Packers against the Carolina Panthers, Wes, a noon Central Time kickoff. The first noon Central Time kickoff of the 2025 season at home for Green Bay, and we get an extra hour of sleep before we have to get up for this one. So you gonna do the whole turn the clock back but still set an alarm, or are you gonna be good come Sunday morning?
It's an interesting question. I guess I will hopefully be good come Sunday morning. Maybe I'll end up being here a little too early. We'll see. But I'll tell you this. I always notice this more when we're on the road, because it's like there's been a couple times where I think in my 14 years covering the team, we've had daylight savings time hit in like the same day we had like a Sunday night football game.
Yeah.
And it made a long day on the road even longer.
Even longer.
Kind of felt like that last week, waiting for an 8:20 Eastern time kickoff.
Yeah.
In Pittsburgh. But yeah, no, daylight savings time, Carolina Panthers, Dom Capers going to be back in town. I can't wait.
Well, these Panthers are 4-4 thus far on the season, and I would say if there's one mistake that Packers fans can make, it's to look at what happened to the Panthers last week as an indication of the type of team this is, because they got it handed to them by the Buffalo Bills. I believe the final score was 40-9, but Andy Dalton had to fill in for Bryce Young at quarterback. Dalton was not up to it. The Bills just completely steamrolled them. This is a Carolina team that, heading into that game against Buffalo without Bryce Young, they had won 3 straight games. Yeah. They have lost a couple of other games to teams with winning records this year. They lost to Jacksonville. They lost to New England. And then obviously lost to Buffalo, but they're 4-1 against everybody else on their schedule, and the one loss was a close one to the Arizona Cardinals. This is a team, when you've got a young, up-and-coming quarterback like Bryce Young, and the Packers kind of found this out a couple of years ago down in Carolina, when a young quarterback on the rise starts to find his way in this league, man, you got to be ready for anything.
Well, Matt LaFleur even talked about it, right, when he was addressing the media on Wednesday, saying that his emergence as a quarterback almost kind of started a little bit with that game against Green Bay at the end of the 2023 season.
I would agree.
Green Bay survived. They got past it, but to that point, that was his first 300-yard game, I believe, in the NFL as far as passing is concerned, and he made it a game at the end of the day. But let's be honest about this, man. It's not about Andy Dalton. It's not about Bryce Young to me. It's about Rico Dowdle. This guy that they got from Dallas is their bell cow. Now, Chuba Hubbard, that's been the dude that they paid after Christian McCaffrey. That was the guy that they dedicated themselves to. But when Hubbard got injured, Dowdle was thrown into the spotlight, and they have gone as he has gone.
Yeah.
Last week, I think they made a huge error. Now, obviously, Andy Dalton didn't play particularly well, but Hubbard's back now, and Dowdle had 8 carries in that game. And I think it's been one of the narratives this week in Carolina about how you probably need to feature him. I am expecting to see a heavy serving of him in this matchup, because especially with what appears to be Bryce Young being back in the fold, he was a full participant in practice on Wednesday. I would imagine his best friend, as they try to get that offense cooking, is going to be Rico.
Yeah, there are rumblings in Carolina with regard to, not that anybody is losing respect for Chuba Hubbard, but Rico Dowdle was the hot hand, and
600 rushing yards already this year.
Yeah, I mean he had 400, I believe, over a stretch of 2 games. So there are a lot of talk in Carolina about, hey, maybe they just need to ride the hot hand here, which is Dowdle, and see how far he can take them. I believe he's averaging at 5.7 yards per carry in
look at the big brain on Brad.
His time so far this season, 5.7. That's a dangerous guy. Another young player on this Carolina offense, Ted McMillan, the wide receiver. I mean, you and I both talked about this guy heading into the draft, where it was like, wow, like how can you not be excited about a guy like this? And of course, he ended up getting chosen long before the Packers were on the clock when Green Bay took Matthew Golden later in the first round. But McMillan so far has lived up to it, man. I mean, he's already as a rookie the go-to guy for Bryce Young in this passing game, and he's another guy that you just look at as a dangerous weapon.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought him up. Obviously, we're going to talk about him, but because a lot of the conversation this week's been about like, hey, would you have Matthew Golden? Do you need to feed him the football? Do you need to get him targets? Well, if you don't have any other weapons around him, he's going to have more opportunity right out of the bat,
right?
To get that attention. I'm not saying that the Panthers don't have weapons. There are plenty of guys to worry about. There's more first-round and second-round picks on this roster. But the fact is that McMillan was brought in to be a game changer. They drafted him where they drafted him to be a game changer, and they have completely shifted their passing game to him. In a way, it almost kind of reminds you about different types of receivers, but almost like when DJ Moore was there, where it was the DJ Moore show and everybody else kind of complements it. That's sort of where they're going with Tet McMillan right now. So I love what I saw from him. He had a good game last week as well, despite the fact it kind of got away from the Panthers. Still 99 receiving yards. Still, what is it now? 500.
He's up over 500 yards, I believe.
Already.
Yeah.
For 8 weeks, not too bad coming out of the gate. So weapons you have to be concerned with for sure. But certainly when you look, again, I'm not going to just make this sound like they're taking on the, pick a team here. 2014 Eagles. New England Patriots or something like that.
Yeah.
But the fact is they do have some guys that can hurt you. Green Bay can't allow them to do that.
Well, on the defensive side of the ball, the kind of black eye on this Carolina defense is the fact that they have not been able to pressure quarterbacks very well. They've only racked up 13 sacks through 8 games, which is a rather low number. One thing I will say, though, because again, if you let the Buffalo game last week, skew your perception too much, you're not really seeing what this Carolina team is. This is a team that when things have been going well, they've stopped the run. Mm-hmm. Now, Buffalo ran all over them. It was like 245 rushing yards by the Bills last week. But before last week, this Carolina team was only giving up like 92 yards a game on the ground. When this team is going well, it is a run-the-ball, stop-the-run team. That completely got away from them last week against the Buffalo Bills. But they've made it tough for the most part for teams to be able to run the ball, but their issue defensively is that they're just not able to speed up the quarterback clocks and to create the kind of pressure that disrupts passing offenses, and that's why you've seen some big point totals by opponents so far this year.
So, out of respect and in honor of Dom Capers, I'm going to start with the positives here. Dom, who's a senior assistant for the Panthers, one of his disciples, Ejiro Evero, who is actually a quality control coach here in Green Bay during my first season with Packers.com.
Yeah, EJ got his basically got his coaching start in the NFL here in Green Bay. It's where he broke in.
And I feel personally that he's one of the guys I respect most in this league. I feel like he has absolutely maximized this Carolina Panthers defense with what they are right now, because it is sort of a transitionary year for what they're looking to build. They have pieces there, but they're not quite to where they want them to be yet, right? They're 11th in total defense, which I think is a tip in a feather in his cap for what they've achieved on that side of things. As you said, when it comes to pressuring the quarterback, it's been a slog. They're 26th in pressure rate right now.
Yeah.
Their leading sack artist, if you want to call him that, pass rusher, whatever you want to say, Derek Brown, only has 3 on the season. Their second guy is A'Shawn Robinson, who I love. I've been a big A'Shawn Robinson fan since he came out in 2016.
Yeah, came out of Alabama.
I drafted him over Kenny Clark that year. But the fact of the matter is he is more your traditional nose tackle, stuff the run, and he's getting home a little bit, but kind of like a few weeks ago with TJ Slayton being second in quarterback hits for the Bengals, you don't necessarily want A'Shawn Robinson to be one of your leading sack guys. So it just shows you the kind of where the Panthers are at right now. They're opportunistic. They're savvy. They can make games competitive, and they've even shown offensively, too. They can blow a team out like they did against Atlanta. But there are a lot of warts there that I think Green Bay is going to have to try to expose.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's just go right into keys to victory here, because there are a couple other topics I want to get to before we make this show too long.
We got to talk about penalties.
Yes, we do. For our producer, Hannah, we don't want to go too long today. But keys to victory here for Green Bay. I'll let you start. What's at the top of your list?
Well, you can't have Bryce Young throwing for 300 passing yards again. I mean, when you go back and think about that game, right? The fact of the matter is that the Packers in that matchup, all right, They got off to a really good start. Bryce Young could not do anything in that game against Carolina. Now, mind you, it's a different defensive coordinator, a lot of different defenders. The script has completely changed now from that time to where the Packers were trending at the end of the 23 season to where they're at right now. All that being said, for the Packers, I feel like being able to stymie his momentum and slow down Dowdle, and Hubbard too when he's in there, is going to be paramount in this one. If Carolina struggles to get the run going, that's when everything else around them kind of crumbles. And Mike, let's just be honest. You said a lot of really nice things about the Panthers in the get-go, and they've lost some competitive games. But really quickly, let's just look at their wins on the season, all right? 30-0 over the Falcons, 27-24 over the Dolphins, 30-27 over the Cowboys, and 13-6 over the Jets. That's not a great win total amongst those four teams that they played in terms of the strength of victory. You have to respect them. You have to understand where they're coming from. But at the same time, the Packers are a team that is sitting at 5-1-1 for a reason, and there's also a reason why the Panthers are at 500.
Yeah, and I agree with you totally that this is a stop the run game, I think, for the Packers defense. If they want to still do the sharing thing between Dowdle and Hubbard, fine. If they're going to ride Dowdle as far as they can, you can't let that running game set up Bryce Young for success. Yeah. And I think defensively that's the key for the Packers. On the offensive side, to me, when you talk about E.J. Everett as the defensive coordinator and, Dom Capers being a consultant on that staff, and Everett's obviously a disciple of his and everything, we've heard from Matt LaFleur this week about how the Panthers really try to, keep that umbrella on their defense, take away big plays. Offensively, this game is about the Packers just have to take what the Panthers are giving them. If the Panthers are just going to give up the 6 and 7 yard stop routes, the hitch routes, whatever you want to call them, then just take them and move the chains. Obviously, stay balanced with the running game and whatnot, and we've seen that the Packers can certainly create a job share a little bit with Josh Jacobs and Emmanuel Wilson with the running game, the way that's going. But just take what they give you. Don't try to force something down the field that's not there. If they're going to sit back and be more afraid of the 20-yard pass downfield than you converting on 2nd and 5 and getting to the sticks, then just take the sticks and keep the ball and keep moving. It feels like it's one of those games that the Packers are going to have to be patient, and they aren't necessarily going to be able to push the ball down the field the way they like to.
That's an excellent point. There's a part of me that wish we could just stop the show right now and actually make you save that for final thoughts, because I think that's a good way to say it. Because here's the thing, and I'm glad you brought this up, because otherwise I would have not been able to bring it back to this. What is Carolina best at defensively? It's the fact that they play a lot of two-shell, but yet they're still pretty competent against defending the run. Yeah. That's where Green Bay has actually really, in a strange way, and you were discussing that this week too, been able to execute well and throw well against the cover two, while maybe not always at times particularly running well against it, which kind of in a way sort of reminds me of the 2011 team, where they've been struggling to get into those third and shorts, but they found ways to still convert them. You can't live in that. You can't survive in it. You need at some point to find some answers. This is a good game to be able to do that in. And I want to bring this up too, because I don't know if we're going to get another chance to discuss it. When you mentioned Emmanuel Wilson, and certainly I'm working on a story about this right now, Wilson getting snaps right now, I think, is not as much of storyline as it is with Josh Jacobs, as it is with the fact that it doesn't sound like the Packers are getting Marshawn Lloyd back anytime soon. Yeah. So having Wilson kind of hitting his stride again here mid-season, I think is going to be very critical for this team, in addition to the fact that if you can take some snaps off of Josh Jacobs, allow him to heal up, allow his body not to take as many hits as he also is dealing with that calf injury, that's not necessarily a bad thing either. Yeah, no, I hear you. I think this will be an interesting game just in terms of how the Packers go about it offensively, with kind of where they are, and Christian Watson, second game back, and Matthew Golden, how's he going to be he dealt with the hip injury, late last week, and now how is he going to be moving forward? So, who runs better wins? I think it probably, when you talk about key to victory, that's probably it. Yeah, it does feel like a run the ball, stop the run kind of game. I want to get to some other topics, but so that I don't forget to pay some bills around here, I need money. Let's hear a word from our sponsors. SiriusXM NFL Radio delivers hard-hitting analysis and up-to-the-minute NFL news that true football fanatics need 24/7, 365.
At Cousin Subs, we have something for everyone, like our Wisconsin cheese curds, mac and cheese, golden fries, and creamy shakes, all paired with your favorite sub or sub in a bowl. Cousin Subs, 50 plus years of better. Pit Boss Grills, the official grill of Packers tailgating at Lambeau or at your house. Take your game day to the next level with a Pit Boss wood pellet grill. Pit Boss Grills available at Menards. Hey Packers fans, we always knew Lambeau Field was a wonder, but now it's official. Learn more about all the wonders of Wisconsin at travelwisconsin.com/wonders. Welcome back to Packers Unscripted. All right, Wes, I said on our last show that we are going to get to some officiating issues on this show and revisit some things. I'm going to do it this way. I have a little bit of a soliloquy, a monologue I need to go on here about a particular issue. Okay. No, that's okay. But then what I'm going to do is then I'm going to turn it over to you, and whether you want to comment on my issue or not, but then you get the floor to talk about an officiating issue of Sounds your fun. Choice. Okay, so you can think about the direction you want to take this while I talk about mine. Because I want to go back to the Arizona game and the hip drop tackle that was flagged on Micah Parsons. Because now I glanced at one replay in the press box after the play was over. And when I saw the replay, I thought, oh, yeah, I can see why they flagged it. You and I discussed it on the show the following week. You had a lot more questions about whether it should have been flagged as a hip drop tackle, and I kind of thought it was an okay call. Well, as it turns out, Micah Parsons was not fined for that hip drop tackle. There were actually in week 7, there were 4 fines for hip drop tackles that were handed out that were not flagged in games. Parsons got flagged but did not get fined, which I've said before on this show, the way the league is doing this with this player safety stuff, with players getting flagged and not fined and fined and not flagged, it's kind of ridiculous. It's reached the point of ridiculousness, quite frankly. But what I want to speak to specifically with regard to the Parsons situation is that, okay, if he's not fined for that hip drop tackle that received a penalty, the league has essentially admitted that the officials got the call wrong, right? What I want to see is some transparency. I want to see some explanation, okay? Why wasn't he fined for it? Why was it not a finable offense for a hip drop tackle and shouldn't have been flagged? Because you had brought up the point when we were discussing it of like, well, was Jacoby Brissett like in the pocket, and should it not have been that? And maybe that's what it was. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was something about the way Parsons went about it when they looked at it on video, that it didn't meet all the criteria for him to get fined. I want to know why. Like, just have some transparency here and explain why he didn't get fined for it and why the officials on the field were wrong to flag it. Because not only is that going to help the players and help the coaches, and it's going to help the fans, it's going to help everybody understand a little bit better what's going on out there. And instead, all we know is that he got flagged for it. It took away what would have been a 4th sack in the game, because it was at or behind the line of scrimmage. And it gave, I believe that play was going to create a 3rd down, a potentially 3rd and long for the Cardinals, but then with the 15 yards, they get the automatic 1st down on the personal foul and all that. I just really don't like the way the NFL is going about this, not only with adjudicating things with the fines, and then if they get the calls wrong on the field, like, okay, so be it. It was 15 yards and a big play and a big call at the time, but everybody just has to live with it. But then not getting any explanation afterward as to why it was wrong, what they're actually looking for. Like, because like I said, I took one glance at it and I kind of understood why it was flagged. So I want to know, okay, why wasn't it actually a hip drop tackle? And okay, I think I'm done now.
No, it's
so I'm gonna turn it over to you. But that's the kind of thing right now with the officiating in the NFL, and I acknowledge it's a tough job.
No,
but
I've stopped doing that because they don't want to make it better, Mike.
No, you're right.
I can't sit here and say that my job stinks, but yet I don't do anything to make it better. My subordinates don't, or my supervisors don't do anything to make it better. I get what you're saying. I'm not coming at you about this, but like, I'm tired of just saying, well, their job's hard. Of course it's hard. You're in the National Football League, bruv.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be hard. These are the fastest, strongest, most athletic athletes on the planet, at least in the fact of what our country has to offer.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard for 54-year-old men to be able to officiate this thing. We have done nothing to revolutionize it. We've done nothing to add to it. That's my problem. And then you get instances like this, like with the hip drop tackle, where it needs to be clear and obvious that the rule needs to be followed, that a flag should be thrown. It has to meet all three criteria. Sean Hockley and his crew felt that happened.
Yeah.
But did it really happen, though?
Obviously not, because they were wrong.
So,
right.
Again, the way this has gone, and this will be my only piece. This is what I'll use as like my last word, right? If this was like first take or whatever. I've been saying for as long as I've worked for the Green Bay Packers now, I'm not trying to put the Dean Blandino era in like this Crystal Palace chamber, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But what was my favorite thing about Blandino? I've said it numerous times on the show already. When Tuesday came, he put out a video explaining calls that they made. He's not going to go through everything, but he picks out 4 or 5 things that he would talk about. The transparency was there, or at least the attempt at it.
Yes.
Since Dean Blandino left the officiating office, which was almost a decade ago now,
yeah,
there has been no transparency. The accountability has lacked. The public in general has less information than ever before about why certain calls are being made. And to your point, this does have nothing to do with wins or losses. Nothing to do with wins or losses. That's a byproduct. It has to do with the fact that Micah Parsons was robbed of his first 4-sack game.
Yeah.
There's money involved in that. There's bonuses involved with that. This happened with Clay Matthews, and I got so upset and agitated with it going back to the 2018 season. That took away Jair Alexander's first career interception because of a crappy call.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and again, and I won't get back up on my soapbox again, but the hip drop tackle thing with Parsons is to me, it's reached the point where that is sort of the epitome of what I have been saying for years, which is that just you want to put all these safety rules in to protect the players and all that. I get it. I am all for player safety. I understand it. But then make all the safety calls reviewable so that whether it's the flags or no flags and whatever in the course of a game, that they get it right. The fact that you're putting in all these safety rules, but then you're not actually putting in assurances that these calls are going to be correct, and then you're just adjudicating with the fines and everything after the fact and taking money out of guys' paychecks or not, even if they got flagged during the game. Like that's to me, that's where it's reached the point of ridiculousness and absurdity. Just make the safety calls reviewable, make sure you get them right on the field, and I think everybody can live with the results.
You ready for me to give you my dystopian view on this?
Yes.
I still have no confidence that they're going to get it right, even if they make it reviewable.
And
I've lost so much confidence in New York at this point. I'm with you on it. I think you're right in terms of but I think back to offensive PI, I think of all the other things. New York stands up for the officials, but unfortunately, a lot of times it comes at the detriment of the game itself.
Yeah, there's definitely.
I don't mean to take steam out of your boat because you're 100% right. But I wish I had confidence in this point for New York to get these calls right upon review. I don't.
I guess for me, I think while it would not be a perfect system and eliminate all errors, it would be the league actually making a greater effort to get the calls right.
And you have to stand behind it.
And there would be more calls that would be correct than incorrect if you give that opportunity for these safety rules. Whether you're talking, and now I know they've gone to they're allowing the replay assist for roughing the passer stuff and for some of the, but there are a lot of safety rules, the hip drop tackle being one of them, that is absolutely not subject to review whatsoever. And that was a huge play in the game in Arizona. It was a huge play for Micah Parsons, as we've talked about with his statistics and numbers and all that. And hats off to him. He still won NFC Defensive Player of the Month, even though he got a sack taken away.
Do you think, last stop.
Yeah.
Do you think if it's reviewable, New York changes that call in the game?
That's a great question.
You know what I think? I think New York stands by that call, and I think on Tuesday money comes out of Micah Parsons' wallet.
Maybe you may be right.
I think he probably got saved by money by that not being a reviewable call. Should it have been? Yes. Should it have been overturned? Yes. Was it in the spirit of the rule? As I said from the very beginning, it is not. The spirit of the rule is when good Aaron Rodgers running towards the sideline, right? Micah Parsons is in pursuit. In that instance, you need to protect Aaron Rodgers because he doesn't see what's coming. If Micah Parsons would have wrapped him up rather than Rodgers throwing it away, if he wraps him up and drops his hip, that's where Rodgers is in danger.
Yeah.
Climbing the pocket.
Yeah, and maybe I misread the play a little bit because I sort of thought Brissett had gone into like scramble mode. You call it climbing the pocket, and so there's a little bit of nuance there, and I probably need to look at the play a few more times myself just to see. But I was giving fans and you like what my instant reaction was to seeing like one replay of it. I understood why they threw. I understood why they threw the flag, and now I'm just really annoyed that I don't understand why he wasn't fined. Because I want to be able to understand these things.
Yeah.
I want to know what's going on and the reasons why, and it bothers me.
You can ask the officials next August when they come back in for their
like they're going to want to answer my question. Jeez. All right. Well, before we go, let's take a look around the league in Week 9. As far as NFC North is concerned, interesting matchup, of course. Minnesota is at Detroit.
Yeah.
That will be going on at the same time, the noon Central Time window, as the Packers and the Panthers. It is the return of J.J. McCarthy to the quarterback position for the Vikings, who have now dropped below 500 at 3-4. The Lions are 5-2 coming off of their bye week.
Yeah.
Do you give the Vikings much of a chance with McCarthy coming back off the long layoff here, or do you think the Lions just take care of business?
Well, I think the Lions take care of business, but here's the beautiful thing about the NFL. Vikings could end up winning this game 38-12 at this point. I mean, like the way that this league has been going this year and the strange things that have happened, nothing would surprise me anymore. That said, this is a really tough draw for J.J. McCarthy coming out of the blocks. He's getting a Detroit team coming off of a bye that's also kind of rectified itself defensively. They're now in the top 10 in defense. They're giving up a little bit in the passing game, but it's going to be a real challenge, especially if they can't get the run game going. I think when you look at when Carson Wentz was successful before the season-ending injury, it was when Jordan Mason was getting going a little bit. It was when obviously they're getting the ball into Justin Jefferson's hands. If McCarthy doesn't have Mason and Aaron Jones running the ball effectively against a really tough run defense,
right,
he's going to have his work cut out for him. This is not trending in the right direction for the Vikings, but never say never. But trying to beat them in that place, it's going to be very difficult.
And Aiden Hutchinson just got his money, so I got a feeling like a 3 or 4 sack game for Hutchinson is coming here. I know McCarthy, if he's healthy, he's plenty mobile. Maybe he can get away from him, but man, oh man, like I wouldn't want to be in Aiden Hutchinson's crosshairs right now after he just signed that big deal.
This is the season right now for Minnesota, honestly, because if you look at the way their schedule lines up, now I was thinking about this before we walked in. It's Lions, Ravens who now are playing the Dolphins. I mean, this could line up for Baltimore to get on a run.
Lamar Jackson's supposedly back tonight, and then they're going to have kind of the extra the mini bye, as they say, before they then play the Vikings.
Before they play the Vikings, and then you got a gritty Bears team, Packers, Seahawks. I mean, it's a tough slog here coming up for Minnesota. I think this result here, after 2 tough losses against good teams, I think it's going to dictate a lot of where their season heads.
Well, the other one in the NFC North, Chicago is at Cincinnati, and the big story, of course, here is whether or not Joe Flacco is going to be able to play. He's dealing with an AC joint sprain in his throwing shoulder. And the Bears will be at Cincinnati. 2nd week in a row, Chicago is on the road against an AFC North team. They got the backup quarterback in Baltimore last week, but that didn't help them as Tyler Huntley took care of Chicago. So we'll see if it's Flacco or Jake Browning. But Chicago trying to stay above 500. If they were to lose, they would drop to 4-4, and they'd be back to even after that 4-game winning streak. Game of the week, though, we'll be working on all of our post-game coverage of Packers-Panthers while the Kansas City Chiefs are at the Buffalo Bills in the late afternoon time slot. Buffalo looks like, They hit a couple bumps in the road. They seem to be getting themselves back on track. Kansas City had some bumps in the road early. They look like they've gotten rolling now. This is a big one in the AFC.
Yeah, and these are the type of franchises and teams that you just expect. However the start of the race goes, by the time you get to that final mile marker, they're going to be back in it.
Yep.
One thing I was pretty young in the 90s, Mike, so you obviously remember those games and those matchups more than I do, but to have this many battles between the Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs, the Josh Allen, Buffalo Bills, the Lamar Jackson, Baltimore Ravens, it's like to have franchise quarterbacks, the very best quarterbacks, all entrenched in the same conference, in some cases the same division, it's wild to watch those matchups play out.
Yeah.
And this matchup itself, both at 5-2. I mean, you look, or 5-3, excuse me, in Kansas City's point of view. You look at where things were headed for them in that first month and how everybody was kind of already wishing doom upon the Chiefs. Well, now Rashee Rice is back, which we knew was going to happen. They've started to build up some steam again. Mike Pennell just signed with the Chiefs for the 13th time, so he's back in that defense. I love you, Mike. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that. But the fact is the Chiefs have a process that works for them, and going into Buffalo, I mean, every time they play the Bills, that's a gritty matchup. That's a fan base that is starving for any victory that they can get against Kansas City. I expect it to be a good one.
Yeah, it should be a good one, and it may just be a preview of yet another January meeting between those two squads, because they've met in the playoffs a lot. One more just to throw it your way. It's the primetime game on Sunday night. Seattle is at Washington, and I bring it up. I know Washington has kind of been struggling here and there, but sounds like Jaden Daniels potentially is going to be back at quarterback for them. Seattle flying across the country all the way coast to coast to play a night game prime time in somebody else's house. I think this one could be pretty interesting, I guess, put it that way. Sam Darnold is off to he's putting together another really, really good season, and this will be an interesting one with as we kind of talked about the Vikings, that kind of their season's kind of maybe hanging on this Lions game a little bit. It kind of feels that way for Washington too, with the struggles that they've had. They need to get Jaden Daniels back. They need to start beating some good teams and get going to get back to where they were a year ago. And if they can't win this one, it becomes a really big uphill climb for the Commanders.
They just got to win games at this point, especially with there's so much parity. All 7 teams, excuse me, right now that are currently in the playoffs in the NFC have 5 or more wins. They're sitting at 3-5 still.
Yeah.
This is a team again that was in the NFC Championship game last year, and is an older team. This is not a young team outside of its quarterback. I mean, they were built to try to make a run at the Super Bowl this season.
Right.
At the same time, the Sam Darnold era is just so interesting, both in Minnesota and also in Seattle this year. It's like his teams just fly under the radar. He does all this stuff. You look at his stat sheet afterwards, it's super impressive. Nobody talks about him. They just keep winning. And that's what the Seattle Seahawks have been this year. Now, the Seahawks, there's pressure on them, too, to take another step, because last year they were, a 10-win team, but they didn't make the playoffs. They have to be able to show that they have something more than just being a competitive team that they can actually threaten. But I think if you're sitting here in Week 9 and you're looking at how the offseason played out, the fact that Minnesota allowed Sam Darnold to creep into unrestricted free agency, he leaves and signs a very, very friendly contract for a starting franchise quarterback in this league with Seattle. That was a gift for the Seahawks. And meanwhile, the Vikings are trying to find the rudder here to keep their ship afloat. Yeah,
it's I'm curious how some of these games are going to turn out. But as far as Packers fans are concerned, if you're cheering against the Bears, cheering against Seattle, those teams are on the road. So maybe Packers got some good results across the league last week. You hope maybe for some other good ones, even though you kind of have to cheer for the Vikings this week. You'd like to see the Lions take a loss, but that one I would say is probably the least likely that maybe would go in Green Bay's favor.
We'll see. We'll talk about it on Tuesday.
All right,
my other prediction, by the way, Joe Flacco plays against Chicago.
You think he's going to play?
I do.
All right.
He's 40 years old. We don't know how much time he has left. You saw how it went early this season with Browning. I think it's going to take something really – I think they're going to have to keep him off that field to not play.
Yeah.
Especially being back in Cincy.
Yeah, you may be right. All right, well, with that, We will call it a wrap on this edition of Packers Unscripted. Be sure to follow all of our coverage of the team and of Sunday's game from Lambeau Field against the Carolina Panthers. We will have it all for you on Packers.com. For Wes, I am Mike. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. We will see you next time.